sitting comfortably, feeling yourself supported by the chair or cushion. Noticing the air going into your nose, feeling its temperature. Feeling the state of the body in general. And taking one or two slow and long breaths all the way in and all the way out. Really taking in that you're right here, right now. Feeling the backside against the chair or cushion. Feeling the hardness of the floor supporting you. Noticing the weight of the torso against the chair or cushion. Noticing how the spine is balancing. You might want to sway a little bit back or back and forth. Just really appreciate that sense of balance that we take for granted. Breathing naturally. Noticing the air against the face. The sensations of the hands. Fingers touching fingers. The weight of the hands. And sensing everyone in this session together. Our beloved Sangha. Sensing our support for each other. As we try to live more fully. To more fully appreciate the mystery of being conscious in this body. And now returning in your own time to the group. And again, thank you so much for being here. Today's class will focus on the Satipatthana Sutta, which is the Buddha's instructions on mindfulness of the breath. And it is said that this practice alone can bring us to freedom, to enlightenment. It sets out a 16-step process, which I will in a few minutes guide you through. And in this process, we experience the four foundations of mindfulness, which are, in sum, mindfulness of the body, including the breath, mindfulness of feeling tones, pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral, mindfulness of what is arising in the heart and mind, and mindfulness of the Dharma, the process of awakening. So this meditation is based on Gil Fronsdale's interpretation and translation of this sutta. And we're not expected to experience the things that the Buddha references. We don't force insight. We just know that through practice they will arise. As our own Sylvia Garcia Pereira says. We notice what's arising in the body, heart, and mind. And we notice what's wholesome and what we need to release. So we'll begin. And after that, just to give you a roadmap, we'll take a break to care for our bodies, and then I will share about this sutta and about the insights I gained at my recent retreat. So settling into the chair or cushion, we begin. Breathing in a long breath. One knows one is breathing in a long breath. Breathing in a short breath. One knows one is breathing in a short breath. Not controlling the breath. Feeling, observing. Just getting to know the texture, pace of the breath. Not controlling it in any way. When the mind gets caught up in thinking, simply gently going back to the breath with kindness, with the sense that we are entrusting ourselves to the breath. Not really looking for things to notice about the breath, simply feeling. And as the mind stabilizes, you will observe, you will notice. Breathing in, experiencing the body. Now we're allowing the body to relax. Not forcing, but inviting. If there are any places that cannot soften, simply allowing that to be. Embracing that part of the body as well as all the rest. Breathing in, relaxing bodily tensions. Breathing in, one experiences joy. Relaxation of the body tends to create a sense of well being, quiet contentment. This sense of joy can be subtle. Don't go looking for it. Simply be with the body as it is. Even being with discomfort, with a kind attitude, can bring contentment. Breathing in, one experiences happiness and pleasure. When joy or happiness or contentment arise, simply making space for it. And if there's any clinging or aversion, just recognizing that. Allowing the body to feel the positive fully. Noticing where it's felt in the body. Allowing it to expand. The happiness and the contentment supports the mind's focus. Breathing in, one experiences mental activity. As we settle into the present moment, we become more and more aware of our mental activity. So simply being aware. Breathing in, one relaxes the mental activity. If there's tension or pressure in the mind, releasing like it's a thinking muscle. So you're letting the muscle relax. The Buddha gave the image of the mind as a still lake with no streams entering into it. It's completely smooth, replenished by a wellspring from the lake floor. So noticing that the process of thinking has stopped or slowed. Breathing in, one experiences the mind. Now that the mind is settled, it may be clearer what its condition is. So without judgment, we want to notice, is the mind clear or cloudy, alert or sleepy? There are many conditions the mind can be in, energetic or dull. So we work with the mind to bring it into balance, judging or reacting to what you find tends to make the mind off balance. Breathing in, one gladdens the mind. We bring energy to the mind with a sense of satisfaction or well being or contentment. Being content that we're practicing. Breathing in, one settles, concentrates the mind. If the mind is too active, we want to relax it by settling more fully into the present moment. With the mind in a state of balance, it's easier to notice the preoccupations that arise and distract. Breathing in, one liberates the mind. And breathing out, one liberates the mind. Now we observe any of the hindrances, the coarser preoccupations, maybe sensual desire, thoughts about eating lunch, or feelings of hostility, restlessness, or sluggishness, or doubt. Recognizing and then realizing there's a story behind it. Letting that go, perhaps feeling where that preoccupation is in the body, releasing any constriction, releasing the thinking muscle itself. To the extent that's possible. Breathing in, one observes impermanence. Breathing out, one observes impermanence. This is not thinking about impermanence, it's feeling it, the flux and flow right now of sensations in the body, changes in the breath, emotions, thoughts arising and passing. As we experience the flow and constant shifting, we may have a sense of how we cling, how we want to make something solid in this field of constant change. Just noticing that impulse without judgment, with kindness. Breathing in, one observes fading away of clinging. Breathing out, one observes fading away of clinging. Getting a sense now of how it feels to grasp, to cling when everything is constantly changing. The large and small ways that we cling. Touching into the dissatisfaction it brings can help our clinging and attachment to fade away, even if only slightly. Suffering can fade. And with practice, one becomes more and more unattached. Breathing in, one experiences the cessation of clinging. Breathing out, one observes cessation of clinging. Can you get a glimpse of the softening of clinging? And can you sense the presence of well being and compassion, of contentment. Breathing in, one observes relinquishment. Or an aspiration that arises out of the understanding that clinging is suffering. It's taking responsibility for your own freedom from clinging. Is there anything in this moment that you could let go of? Any preoccupation that you could lessen to be more fully present right here, right now? Welcome back. I want to share then now about a retreat I was recently on, and it was a mindfulness of the breath retreat. Okay, welcome back. I'm sorry for a little confusion there with the recording. So I read in Massachusetts, and it was a mindfulness of the breath retreat primarily. And I had experiences that are just touch into what the Buddha taught in that Satipatthana Sutta, in the four foundations of mindfulness, in the basic principles of the Dharma. So I thought it was worth recounting my experience. So the first couple of days went well, and my mind was quieting down. It was a very peaceful setting. There were about 100 people at the retreat. There's a beautiful meditation hall with a big statue of the Buddha. And in a retreat like this, you alternate between everyone sitting at one time and then everyone doing walking meditations. And you go on like that, sitting and walking for most of the day, except when there is a meal served, and or when you do a yogi duty, which involves some light housekeeping usually. So, so my mind was settling, and I became aware of, feeling tones, and it was very pleasant as my mind settled and my body relaxed. And I noticed some, of course, thinking. I was able to be kind to myself, unlike when I first started going to retreats. Um, I had some back pain, which worried me, and I noticed that, and I tried to give that compassion. And then on maybe the second or third day, I noticed a very familiar voice that I recognized from the last retreat that quietly but insistently said I wasn't trying hard enough. When I sat, when I walked, it was like, wait, I'm not appreciating this grapefruit and yogurt enough. I'm not tasting it enough. Or I'm letting my mind wander as I sweep this floor. And I'm supposed to be feeling my legs and my hands and this broom. Or when I was walking, I couldn't really, or I wasn't really feeling my foot stepping against the floor. And and when I sat, I wasn't, of course, really concentrating enough. Basically, I'm coasting. So there was dukkha with that, of course, and meditation and sitting and walking and just being. And in one of the very first few days, the teachers get together with small groups, and I mentioned this inner critic to my teacher, and I said, this is, I think this is from a childhood kind of wounding that felt like I had to be perfect to protect myself and to be happy. And we've talked in this class about how parts of ourselves can arise and kind of coalesce in childhood because of some kind of difficulty, and they're designed to keep us safe, and they make us suffer, and so we typically repress them, but that's not skillful. We want to bring them out in the open and give them compassion. So I talked to my retreat teacher and said I plan to do this, and that this part of me arose from the age of 12. I sensed this retreat gave me that information or that sense, and she encouraged me. So I continued with the retreat and was getting more and more concentrated on the cushion, and the critical voice was less active there. Um, but it was very much still there. And while I was having experiences on the cushion of an expanding mind and um, and some I was having the ability to experience various states of mind, such as dullness, sleepiness, or maybe the next time there would be alertness. And I could accept that. I was not I was trying. I was endeavoring not to cling, not to push away, and just to accept with curiosity what arose in my sits. And yet, off the cushion, there was this cascading criticism from this voice. I was inconsiderate by walking in front of another person just there without realizing it. But I was, or I just didn't disinfect this this doorknob after I used it. So, hi, it's you again. That's how it would feel. It's this person, it's this voice. It needs metta. And as I worked with this or tried to, I realized that I had this impulse to fix it so I could get on with my retreat. Uh, it was intruding, and that isn't what I wanted. So I gave it metta a little more vigorously, and I tried to visualize wrapping that 12-year-old in a hug. But then I really remembered what life was like for me as a 12-year-old, and I didn't want to be hugged by anyone because I wasn't really thrilled with having this body. So I just tried to send it metta the best I could. I just tried to open my heart. But there was some there was some opposition between me and this experience on the retreat, the positive mind states, and then this intrusive voice. So I remember one time I was doing a walking meditation in a beautiful room with wooden floors and big windows that looked out onto a snow covered pasture. And I just had to acknowledge that in my chest there was pain. And it was dukkha from from dealing with this voice and trying to control it and trying to heal it. And it came to me that there was something I was clinging to, or at least I asked myself, is there anything that I can let go of? This is dukkha. And I felt it in my body. And I realized it was what I was clinging to was the idea of this self who has a perfect retreat, or maybe not a perfect one, but this voice is not supposed to be on my retreat. This is a obsessive, intrusive voice. It's okay for things to come and go and doubts and all that, but this is too much. So that was what I was clinging to and fixed on. And I just realized I had to let go. I had to accept what was. And it really was doubt, which is one of the 5 hindrances, which when the mind is very clear and settled, we can recognize. And doubt on a retreat, my experience is that it is not like doubt in your professional life, for instance, because it's so personal. So I mean, there's something about being raised with the Christian puritanical belief in your own inherent sinfulness that makes at least me susceptible to this kind of doubt. And whether you analyze it as a part of me that was created as to uh, to be perfect, with the idea that perfection will bring some kind of security, or if it's self doubt, which is a hindrance, what I came to realize in that moment when I was walking was that the intention to awaken and to open the mind and heart is what is real. I mean, I believe in the Dharma, and it has brought me relief. And I believe that, and I felt and knew that clinging to this idea of the retreat of myself was causing suffering. So I had to let it go. And I happened to have a meeting with a teacher maybe the next day, the next morning. And I talked about this conclusion or this sense that I had come to. And he encouraged my approach to to accept what this part of me, what this voice, what this critical energy, just accept that it was. And and it seems so simple in talking about it that that's what would I would need to do. And yet these are patterns that have been with me for decades, since I was 12. Um, and retreat can bring us face to face with that. It did with me in this retreat. And it was a a palpable sense of letting go and of comfort that I experienced. And after meeting with this teacher, I went down to the meditation hall because a sit was in session, and I was able to just really concentrate and feel the body. And it ended up that my body became so alive to me. I felt like I could feel every cell singing with aliveness, which is not what I expected or have ever felt. But um, it was a gift. And at the same time, I felt some rumbling in my digestive system, and I had this realization or insight that this body would cease eventually. And at the same time, I didn't feel identified with this body. I could feel this incredible aliveness in all these parts of my body, but it wasn't, I didn't sense that it was my body. I mean, I didn't sense that it was anyone else's body. It wasn't an alarming sense or experience at all. It was joyful. And and so I believe that simply by letting go of this idea of myself, um, I was able to experience some insight. And in fact, the Four Noble Truths teach us that life has suffering. Suffering is caused by clinging and attachment, that there can be an end of suffering, and that path toward liberation from suffering is the Eightfold Path. And one of the ways that we can cling, the Dharma teaches us, and cause ourselves suffering is clinging to an idea of self, of how we think, a self image, or it could be clinging to an image that you want to project to the outside world. There are lots of ways that our ego can get front and center in our dukkha. And in this retreat, it was an curious, but I don't think uncommon phenomena that my inner critic um, kind of took center stage to some extent. And my job, I mean, the only path I had was to accept it, even though I tried to heal it, to change it, to fix it. And that was about ego and a sense of self. And so I would like us, it caused me to really look into how a sense of self causes clinging and suffering, even in practice, how that happens. And so I would like us to go into breakout rooms with 3 people in each. And if you don't want to, you don't have to. Just raise your hand so Heather will know not to put you in one. And I'll write the prompt that you will be able to see in the breakout room. And the prompt is there anything that you're clinging to in your practice that interferes with insight or freedom?